Hi, Bashar. It's Sheila from Lakeland, and I'm excited to ask you this question. This has to do with me being mistaken either for a celebrity or for someone people know, and I'm wondering what that could mean for me. So, after a live event, at one of your live events in Sedona, people saw me and they thought I was the celebrity Frances Fisher, which was really awesome. But as I've traveled all over the globe, people often think I'm someone they know. In fact, I walked into a store and this gentleman walked up to me with open arms and said, "Pat," and he was so happy to see me, but I wasn't Pat. And people will say to me again and again, even after we realize that I'm not the person they think I am, they'll say, "But really, the way you speak and your gestures are just like this person that they know." And I'm wondering what to make of that. It feels like a compliment. It feels really nice, which is great, and maybe that's all there is. But maybe there's something more to it. I mean, when I'm connecting with people, I'm always really excited, like a like a Labrador puppy, to meet people, and it feels like such a good connection, like I'm allowing all that is and source to flow through me and focus on, the best in people and reflect back the best of myself, and all that feels awesome. I'm just wondering if there's something more to it or something that I could use about this thing where people think they know me. Thank you.
Well, again, the idea is that your excitement and desire to be of service in that way makes you a little bit of a chameleon. You will then take on whatever the vibration is that reflects back to them that familiarity, so they feel comfortable enough for you to communicate the energy to them that allows them to move forward in the way that they prefer to. So you're being of service by being a little bit of a reflection of whatever it is they feel they need to be comfortable in accepting that frequency within themselves so they can move forward.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Well, firstly, a big thank you for the opportunity to have this interaction.
And a big thank you to you as well for the co-creation of it.
Thank you. Before I'm going to ask my first question, I want to say that I understand that there are different ways to look at this, and that different individuals use different mechanisms for the creation of the experience of Alzheimer's disease.
Yes.
And you explained that in general, the majority of people that have the experience of having Alzheimer's has to do with them being in denial about their lives, that they wish to forget, that there is something in them that is to them so painful they cannot deal with it.
This is a very, very generalized response, but it is true for many people, although it is experienced in a multitude of different ways.
Okay. Because I was wondering, we call this process also dementia.
Yes.
It almost seems like the personality structure of the people going through this experience is somehow dissolving, and that they are shifting through different dimensions very rapidly.
Yes, all sorts of mental disorders that in some way, shape, or form reflect or represent an alteration of personality, be it the idea you call of dementia or Alzheimer's, or even dissociative personality disorder or schizophrenia. These things have one thing in common, in general, at their core. It is in some way, shape, or form an inability, due to either belief systems or what have you, to not allow different aspects of the personality to harmonize and blend in a coherent way for the reality that they chose to be in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. And I was also wondering, but what's happening on a soul level? How is the soul experiencing this process?
Well, again, it depends upon the reason why a soul may have agreed to have these kinds of experiences, or for the purposes that the soul needs those experiences, or simply in the way that the soul chooses to use them. So it will vary from soul to soul. But overall, the idea is one of seeking integration by creating dissociation, what appears to be disconnection, and then going through the process to arrive at a realization that disconnection is not real, but only an illusion. And that the paradox is, in order to actually have an experience of disconnection, you actually have to be connected. You have to be integrated to have an experience in some sense of disintegration.
Yes, I understand. And can you say that when people go through this process, that they eventually are able to look at the pain that they are, trying to avoid?
Some of them do and some of them don't. Again, it depends upon the choices that have been made for this life theme. Many of them give themselves the probability to arrive at that conclusion, but some of them choose not to, and they make their assessments in spirit after the life.
Okay. And I don't know, maybe in general, does the pain has to do with, a lack of self-worth?
It can. In general, again, a very generalized answer. Everyone will have a specific way of experiencing this if they choose to. All pain is the result, fundamentally, of resistance to the natural self.
Yeah, I understand.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I also have a couple of questions concerning the Anunnaki.
Yes.
You mentioned that the Anunnaki were the first to genetically alter the DNA of the natural evolved Homo erectus here on Earth.
Yes, because at that point, the Homo erectus was available and compatible enough through panspermia millions of years before that for them to make the alteration and find enough similarity in their genetics to do so.
I understand. And I was wondering, after the Homo sapiens came into existence, have there been other alterations in our DNA due to other extraterrestrial races?
Yes, especially the Greys.
Especially the
Although they're not really an extraterrestrial race in the classic sense.
No, I understand. But for instance, the Pleiadians or any race we know of, do they made some alterations in our DNA also?
Well, not exactly in the same context. Some have been, by agreement, an energy shift that creates an alteration in your DNA by having you be given a frequency that then you choose to align with to create the alteration. But it's not a physiological manipulation in the typical sense.
Okay, I understand. And you also mentioned that the Anunnaki evolved, but did they evolve into a non-physical?
A few of them have, but basically what you know as the Pleiadians is one of the evolutionary offshoots.
Okay. So are the Anunnaki genetically linked to other extraterrestrial races that we know of? Yeah, you just explained it.
Well, I said Pleiadian, yes.
Okay.
And others that you may not know of.
Okay. Okay. And also concerning what we now talked about, I was wondering if I'm correct in my understanding that the Greys and the human beings have the same Anunnaki ancestors, but that the genetic alteration...
Well, not exactly the same, because the Greys come from an alternate version of reality. So they had their own history of interaction with the Anunnaki, but they're not the same Anunnaki because those Anunnaki belong in an alternate parallel universe.
Okay. Okay. Because I was wondering, I read somewhere that as a result, the people who eventually evolved into the Greys had a different expression of these genetic alterations than the human beings in this timeline. But that makes sense. Yeah.
Although the idea is that the humans of that version of Earth didn't, quote unquote, evolve into the Greys. They mutated themselves on purpose to be able to handle the environment that existed when they destroyed their version of Earth.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I thought, it's a mutation. I thought
it's a mutation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for this.
Yes. It is the reason why some of their DNA can be compatible with the DNA of humans on your version of Earth and other versions of Earth, is because they actually started out as human.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be too incompatible to create hybrids.
Hybrids, yes, exactly. Thank you for this.
Yes.
That was what I wanted to ask you today. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Pleasant dreams to you.
Thank you.
Bashar, I would like to ask you about the gravity well. What does it look like? What is it made of? What is its geometry? How can we replicate it? Thank you. I love you.
On the template level, it is again the idea of the distortion of the space-time field, the space-time fabric, the consciousness field itself. The idea of how it looks in template form is as, in a two-dimensional description, just for the sake of convenience, like two overlapping Fibonacci spirals going in opposite directions, radiating from a central point.
Hi.
And to you, good day.
Such a pleasure to see you again.
It is always a pleasure to interact with you as well.
I have a few short questions and then something to discuss with you.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the short questions.
All right.
There has been like 2 books written a long time ago around soul schools by Michael Newton, how we are always in a soul pod and we're actually in school learning to grow.
In many different ways, yes. In many different ways, yes.
Yes. And does this happen with more advanced or civilizations that are already aware of the different?
There is always more to learn. There is always room for growth. It never ends.
That's great. There is kind of like for you, like you say, you don't sleep, you don't eat. So is there still this this kind of sleep state that we go into, and then this awake state, although they can be the opposite at a soul level?
Yes.
That you experience, or it's more of just an understanding that?
For more, it's a constant experience of walking through different dimensions of space and time and spirit, constantly in a dream, constantly awake. But again, we also have what you might call mentors, teachers, higher dimensional beings that are also helping us to experience more things beyond the point to which we have already evolved. Again, it never ends. They have their mentors. They have their mentors.
Sure. So compared
and even the idea of all that is can still experience different versions of all that is. It never ends.
It can just become perhaps a little more conscious.
That is exactly what happens. You expand your consciousness to contain, in more awareness, another level within yourself.
Yes, got it. Thank you. Is the average human life expected to be longer?
Yes, because the paradox is the more you live in the moment, in a sense, the less aging you experience, and therefore you appear to live longer in physical terms.
But not necessarily in like how we calculate age?
Well, in other words, just as we, on average, though there are longer lived beings in our society, on average, will live to about 300, but we'll probably look to you like we're about 30.
Mm-hmm.
So you are achieving this slowly as humanity. Many of you, not all of you, but many of you.
Because there's a lot of people are starting to talk about how actually we should be able to live up to 140 years.
Oh yes, easily. And most likely you will find that within the next 50 to 75 years, that might be about the average lifespan. Maybe 120 to 150, depending upon the individual.
Wow. But there is also this collective that needs to be moving along for that to be happening for those individuals as well.
Yes, but again, remember that when you shift to another version of Earth that already has that collective.
Right. That's true.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah, thank you. In the near future, will we find a new material to replace plastic, or would we be able to find a way to break down plastics sooner?
Well, both. What we utilize is based on something your scientists understand to be nanotechnological. And it is a kind of crystalline metallic form that has plastic qualities that can change and shift its shape as it needs to and provide many different kinds of effects and have many different kinds of uses. Our ships, in a sense, are grown, and they have this ability to shift their shape and even within the cabin to provide what we need when we need it, and when we don't need it, it simply absorbs back into the walls or the floors or the ceilings. And it's all made out of the same seamless material.
That's so exciting.
Yes. So you're approaching this idea of this nanotechnology slowly, you'll arrive at something similar in the relatively near future.
That's great. That's great. Um, um, I don't know whether people have asked this, but as we're approaching open contact, and
Yes.
I'm just like putting everything you've spoken about, how in there is no in the whole in all that is, there is positive and negative and all that. So there must be positive and negative extraterrestrials as well.
Well, yes, but your planet is not really dealing with what you would consider to be truly the negative ones. There may be some that have different agendas than you that are visiting your world. There may be some that don't pay much attention to you. There may be some that don't necessarily understand you and so can come off somewhat negative or cold to you or unfeeling or uncaring. But none of them that you're dealing with are really what you would consider to be malevolent.
Is that because of the kind of school Earth is?
Yes, and also because the vibrational changing that you are aligning with simply doesn't allow for those kinds of beings to find the version of Earth that you're creating for yourself, because it's too vibrationally incompatible.
Meaning we're quite vibrationally positive?
Those that align with that are and can never experience something that's that vibrationally negative outside of your own reality. Because Earth is its own island in a sense, collectively speaking, and it's going through different kinds of transitions collectively as well. Most of them are simply not compatible with beings that you would find to be relatively malevolent, although of course there are some versions of Earth that are, but you're not on them. Otherwise we wouldn't be talking to you.
Sure. Yay. Okay, good. It makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah,
because there would be no point in it.
that's right. That's right.
So yes, there are versions of Earth experiencing extremely malevolent extraterrestrial beings, but that simply has nothing to do with the ones that we are communicating to you in.
Right. And that's not the one I'm in.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking.
Yes, got it.
One moment, we heard a question. Yes, of course, we might communicate with some versions of Earth that have the capacity to shift from the negative to the positive vibration, because certainly that's to some degree what we're doing with your experience of the different versions of Earth. But I'm simply saying that below a certain threshold, there's not going to be necessarily choices being made by the collective consciousness that would allow themselves to shift to something more positive, and therefore those are the ones that would be pointless for us at this point to communicate with. So yes, we might communicate with some that have the potential to change, but not with the ones that have chosen no potential to change in that direction.
Totally get it. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you, Bashar.
Good day.
Good day.